Donkey Jaw Projects.
What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today's day 80 of 100 days making comics. And today was kind of a little bit of a bust. I mean, not a bust, but I would have loved to get more done. But the thing is I had opportunity, but man, I've just been so run down. I had to go into work on a Saturday today, which was 3 hours, but it's like 3 hours of inventory, which is just not fun, you know, counting and stuff, and it just kind of wears you down. And when I got home, I was just like listening to music and stuff, and I don't know, I was just kind of looking up reference things and getting into just learning stuff, like finding stuff out about like old cartoons and the creators behind it and the creators behind the music. And then I remembered I wanted to look up some stuff about the band The Police, and I don't know, and I was just looking up old music that I really like. And so anyways, it was awesome. Like it's like sometimes you just get on these tangents, but you almost feel like you're glad you did, because you need to. You just need that release. It's been stressful. Things have been stressful, but good, kind of in a good way. So that's good, but that it still doesn't make it easier sometimes, I guess. But anyway, so one thing I've been thinking about too is I've been looking at those old cartoons, like I said, like 30s, 40s cartoons, the rubber hose era, I guess. I don't really know what to call that era. I guess rubber hose era makes sense. Or like the black and white, whatever, all that stuff. Just the designs from that, I was like playing around, like learning some stuff, trying to figure out, like, take influence from it direct on purpose and stuff. And I even did some character design, and that's what I did for 100 Days Making Comics today, is I was working on some character design sketches for what I think is going to be the character for this thing I'm thinking of doing for Alternate Comics. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really digging playing around with that old 30s, 20s style. Just playing around with like the style from that and whatnot, and I'm kind of thinking that I want to put a little bit of that into Daisy Ted as well. It already kind of, I guess, is a little bit, without me even knowing it. Like I could see those characters, some of those characters, like totally. And so far, I've only introduced one character, and then like just the group of daisies. But I could see those characters like really. Like if I animated them, they could move like, you know, old rubber hose characters and stuff like that. So I don't know, just kind of getting a lot of inspiration. And one thing that I've noticed though is like I love, and this is something me and Adam Lohr were talking about, and you know, spoiler alert, I guess. I mean, it's not really spoiler, it's just part of what we were talking about with the idea we came up with. And it's really not a spoiler, it's just kind of a thought, a concept. But we were talking about how we both like things that are like really old and really new. Or I think I was talking about it, I guess, and I think he was like thinking it was cool too. And I don't know. You could tell like my brain is like just kind of sporadic at the moment. But you know, I don't know. It's just really cool. Like this idea of like retro future stuff. Like that's like one of my favorite pin boards on like Pinterest. is like I have a couple of them that kind of are retro, like sci-fi sets and designs and stuff like that from early probably 30s, anywhere from maybe 20s to wherever, like any time there's been like looking into the future, like robots and sci-fi and stuff, but the old stuff, the old kind of sci-fi. So that's kind of cool. But also, just on another thing, is like I love looking into like ancient texts and ancient mythologies and stuff like that. I like to dig as far back as I can, and even with the cartoons, I'm like going back as far as I can, and that's the stuff in the comics too, and music as well. And so that stuff is really inspiring me. And then kind of, I've been talking about being influenced by Vaughn Bodie, and he's more in the 70s, so it's a little more current, and plus it, is a big influence on graffiti, and graffiti's more current. So I've already kind of brought that somewhat current influence into my art since I was a kid, so it's kind of, that's more of a modernized thing for me, I guess. Modern isn't a great word to use, but you guys know what I mean. And then, now I'm bringing in some of these influences from the old cartoons and stuff too, and a lot of people don't really do that. Some people do. I guess there's this video game called, and I think I've seen it before, but now because I'm looking into it, I'm finding it again. And I think it's called Cuphead or something like that. But it's like they're taking a lot of influence from the old Rubber Hose era and stuff with the video game, and it's really cool, amazing design and fun stuff. And they're kind of doing their thing with it, and I think I want to do the same thing, not the same as what they're doing. Like, I just want to get that influence as well. So I don't know, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And just mixing it with some of my other influences, and kind of like, I don't know, there's just a lot of influences that are interesting me, and it's kind of seems like it's all over the place. It kind of is. Another big influence that I've been thinking a lot about, I can't stop thinking about, is Sergio Aragonés. Now that I'm looking into this more cartoony stuff, it's weird. I've never been super excited about doing like kind of cartoony stuff, like, and getting into a more cartoony style. I kind of grew up loving like nitty gritty, like Todd McFarlane details that, obviously the details are kind of ridiculous in his stuff, but, and they're details of who knows what, but but it's still cool. It looked cool. And then just other people, I mean, even to a certain extent, like just all the 90s a lot of the 90s creators, kind of were detail heavy, at least with just putting a lot of lines down. And that's what I grew up on. That's what I thought I was going to want to do. But in my comics, I haven't done that really at all. So far, like, maybe the tiniest bit. In some illustrations I have, but I tend to always end up going somewhat cartoony, which is really weird because I never thought I was gonna do that, and that wasn't what inspired me, and I don't know that that's how I want to draw. But I don't really know how I want to draw. I think it's a mix of cartoony and realism. Like, I do like the details, so like that's kind of why, like, Calvin and Hobbes kind of is one of those things where you see some detail, but even in Calvin and Hobbes, it's still pretty simple. It's pretty simplistic, but there was a little bit more realism in some parts of it, which I always thought was cool. I'm trying to think of examples of things that are both. I think like Jake Parker kind of has a cool style that's pretty cartoony, but he'll also get into some details. So yeah, mixing old with new, and cartoony with details, I think that's somewhere towards where I'm going. I don't, just because I'm going down a certain path doesn't mean I know how I'm getting there or where exactly I'm headed. I just know the general goal, you know. The general goal is to make a career out of independent properties and express myself with my music and my art all the time, heavily. And that's really important to me. And I talked about it in a video recently where, you know, where I'm finding my why finally, like, and that why is expanded a little bit. You know, I was saying that the thing with why I make stuff is because I have control over it, so I'm able to express myself more clearly. But it's also, I'm able to, and this is the expanded part, I'm able to express myself in like a bigger, better way. Like you can't express a feeling. Like if I'm talking to somebody like straight on in a relationship situation, I mean, you can express feeling, but you can actually express it better with art, like with music, with a movie or whatever, you know, something like that. Because, and with a comic, you know, because you got colors and stuff with comics to like help with the emotion and just the way you draw it and render it and stuff. With movies and music, I mean, music is a big part of movies that helps with that. Like, it's funny, like, I think about that when I'm watching TV shows, and it's like if they didn't have like a dramatic backdrop, it might not seem like such a big deal, but they kind of handhold you through the emotion of the scene, and they even misdirect you with emotion and stuff. Like, they do all kinds of things. And you can't really convey that in like talking in a relationship. Like, how many times have you tried to convey something clearly to somebody and they totally they misunderstand you, and you know, you're expressing one feeling and they're getting a whole different feeling. I mean, if you have a girlfriend or a wife or a husband or whatever it is, you run into that kind of thing a lot, you know, and you can only do so much to convey an emotion. But, you know, if I could maybe sing a song to my wife, I might be able to convey that emotion better, you know. Or make a piece of art, you know, to express a certain thing to my wife. I might be able to, you can help people empathize with you. You can help people see from your perspective better than you can with just a straight conversation trying to explain it. Like, have you ever known that somebody loved you or had a certain feeling towards you, but you didn't feel it? Like, I've had that before, where you know somebody loves you, but you never actually felt it, you know. And why though? Like, how do you, I mean, that's a whole different question. Like, I wonder, like, what would that, I don't know. That's a whole different thing. But it's just like, but I can feel that more through, I mean, sometimes it comes with experience and stuff, and I don't know. Do you guys get what I'm trying to say though? Like I'll never understand how my wife is feeling maybe about something, or my brother, or, you know, my mother, or anybody in my family, you know, how they're feeling about some certain things. Like, not exactly, like, you can never be like in that person's head or in that person's emotions, you know. But so if you can convey accurately through a piece of art, through a movie, through a song, you might be able to actually convey that feeling to somebody, especially through a story, because you can show, like, I've definitely empathized with things that I used to be maybe against, or maybe not so much against, but not on board with, you know, fully. And then through watching a TV show or something, or a movie, I've been able to feel the feelings that somebody who I didn't think I could relate with, and I can relate with them. That's like what the power of story is, to a certain degree. It can actually be a very manipulative thing, and it has been. I mean, You know, there's some of these like dictatorships and stuff where they control the media that people take in. Like they have bans on internet and certain things are blocked and things like that. So there's a reason, because they want to control the message. You know, they want to cause people to feel what they want the people to feel, you know. So I don't want to end on that negative note, but the point is that that's a big reason why I want to create. And the thing is like, have you ever like had a vision for a piece of art too, or a story or whatever, or written something, but it's not fully finished, but you want to show somebody so maybe they could give you some feedback or whatever, but they just don't get it. Like they're like, yeah, but this and this, and you're like, yeah, I know that's not right and this isn't right, but I just want to see if and they just don't even get the gist of what you're trying to share. Like they don't really get it, and it's because it's not complete yet, you know. So it's like the only way, and that's why single vision comics are so awesome. You know, Frank Miller's, you know, Dark Knight Returns, like, could he really have conveyed exactly what he wanted to communicate to the reader by, you know, telling this to an artist? He might have, but a lot of times that's why it's a collaborative medium. A lot of times if you're collaborating in that way, it might come out slightly different or not exactly the way you envisioned it, and sometimes it's for the better, sometimes, you know, you might lose something in the process. So that's why single vision creations sometimes can be super awesome and amazing, but sometimes collaborations are better because, you know, again, you can bring out something you would have never expected or never thought of, you know. So, you know, it kind of goes both ways. But that being said, it's hard to convey and get people to empathize with you just through conversation alone or something like that, you know. And so that's a big part of my why. I have things that I want to share, but I can't share them any other way than creating a piece of art to really get it. And you know, that's another thing, is like getting good enough at your craft that you actually can convey the things. Because there have been times I've created something and it didn't come across the way I meant it to, and somehow I lost the vision before I finished it. So that's another thing that's tough. So it's not like the magic answer. It's something that you have to get good at to be able to do correctly, you know, and do in a way that actually conveys what you know, wanted to convey. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting. I went way longer than I expected, but yeah, hopefully you got something from that. I'm still working all this stuff out, trying to figure it out. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check out my videos. And yeah, let me know what you think about this kind of stuff, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Peace out.